stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Next on the agenda is an opportunity we have for visitors to speak. Do we have any visitors that have signed up to speak at this time? We will continue to the adoption of minutes. Had a chance to review. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Let's see. All right, at this time, maybe I get the privilege, or Raylan gets a privilege.
No, it's a privilege.
I'm happy to introduce our newest park board ex officio member. Patty Yoakum and I have become acquainted on the Kiwanis Club. I can tell you she has a servant's heart. She obviously serves on the Parks Board. She serves with the Cemetery Association, lives in Terrell, and anything else you'd like us to know about you, we welcome you.
I'm pleased to be here. This is kind of a goal of mine, and so I appreciate y'all's confidence in me. And I was going to speak as a visitor, so can I speak now?
Please.
I want to personally invite y'all to Oakland Memorial Cemetery on next Saturday for the Memorial Walk. You can go on our website, oaklandmemorialpark.org, and reserve your tour time. We're hoping we get a good participants there. Kids under 10 are free. So we're going to feature our founding fathers that are actually buried there at the cemetery. Mr. Terrell and Mr. Moore are there, and the wife of the judge, Irvine, is there. And then we're going to have some surprises along the walk. So we really hope that you will come. And Allison has been great with the city of Terrell for her cooperation, and the chamber has been awesome. So I really appreciate the city and the chamber support.
Absolutely.
See
We
y'all
look forward to
Saturday.
it. Yes, well, I'll be there.
Okay, good.
I would like to ask one
Please.
more thing to that. That sign out there, the corner signs out there on 80, Patty's responsible for
Oh,
the messages.
I love that.
A lot of fun with that.
No, I was fixing to say, it's gotten really good. I don't know when you took it over, but it's gotten, there's some humor in there. I like it.
I want to put up there, but I can't. But
It's gotten really good,
Are you the one
yeah.
that we have to thank for Lordy Tori Lucas is 40?
oh yeah.
Yes, thank you for that.
For that one.
Fantastic.
I also want to say welcome to Patty. We've had the opportunity to get to know each other over the last couple of months, and she has a strong background in parks, working for, I think, was it Garland?
Yes.
If I remember correctly, and she's very engaged in the community, and even had me talking about, kind of the best plants to pick, and which ones may grow better alongside kind of a near water, like a river vent, compared to maybe downtown. So looking forward to even, some of the recommendations for our plants in the downtown area so they can stay alive.
That is the goal.
Your timing couldn't be perfect. We are going to discuss and consider downtown landscape project later in this meeting. So welcome on board.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, I'd like to discuss and consider the Paddock Site Enhancement Matching Grant Program, and for that, I'll call on Raylan.
Okay, real quick, so it looks like we're doing a lot today, but actually I'm hoping not to take very much time. It is a very big packet, so I'm just going to kind of highlight. Everyone knows that we've been looking at different applications, different ways that cities bring in grants and revitalization to downtown, and so my effort in this was to attempt to make very specific grant applications based on your type of business, exactly where you're located, what you're bringing to Terrell, so that it takes some of that initial conversation off the board, and it's not so much based on a biased opinion, but you have to meet so much criteria for this. I think that Paddock, through your facade enhancement grant, has done some great things to downtown, but that we're kind of at a position now where we should be motivated for property owners to be motivated. We should be motivated for those businesses coming in to Terrell. So that's why there's 3 separate applications. The first one is the Site Enhancement Matching Grant. What I wanted to do was really focus on very specific items to the facade or the outside of the building and make sure that there was a defined amount that you could qualify for those items. So the other key to this is having the site enhancement be outside of our core central business district, but be all of those rezoned properties that are entering your core. So that would be all of the downtown district zone properties, so that we pick up some of this from east to west and a little bit north to south. It just kind of expands a little bit farther than your central business district. So we specifically listed, of course, the windows, doors, awnings, brick, murals, making sure that we had an exact amount on that, accent lighting, signage, and then I also wanted to include the sidewalk or paving repair, because a lot of times that's an expense that we really want property owners to make sure that they have that if they're wanting to add sidewalks or repair sidewalks. And then just some set amounts for roof replacements or screening and patios for any of the outdoor venues. The process itself, of course, the applications are generated through Paddock, and I made sure that part of the application process would be that the applicants would attend the Paddock board meetings, making sure that we have in there an amount of time to complete those projects, and then just the main thing that I run into is people who try to come in through the facade grant and then forgetting, like, there's still the municipal development area of building permits, and making sure that what you're doing here, although we like it to look pretty, we still need you to pull permits. You're still having to do certificates of occupancy. Like, there's still steps that you have to go through. So part of that application process would be proving that you've gone through municipal development, that we have building permits on file, that everything you're proposing actually is within our building inspections department. So this application is a little bit easier, but there is very specific information that we're asking for about the business. They have to include at least 2 bids, just because it is hard to have 3 or multiple bids, so we definitely want to make sure we have at least 2 attached to the application. And then obviously I would calculate the requested funds based on the allocation in the process. But attachments would include photographs, project budget, any of the written bids. We always want drawings or renderings or any other supporting illustrations of the improvements. So, you know, this is just, I think it's an easy checklist for someone who wants to know if they qualify, and then they would know exactly how much money they could possibly qualify for. Again, one of the keys to this is that it would be Central Business District and Downtown District. It's the mauve that shows the D. So it would be all of the D and then the CBD, which is along Moore Avenue.
What is C?
Central Business, that's just commercial. So you've got retail, commercial, and I was trying to make sure that we were concentrated on the areas that feed into downtown, which was why they added that additional zoning.
And Raylan, I would like to add a recommendation that we add to the language below are the maximum available matching funds. Because I want the language to be very specific that this is what you may get, but
Right.
we are not,
Okay.
I don't want the application to read like, if you meet all our requirements, you're guaranteed
Right.
this amount.
Okay, can do that.
Other thoughts for Raylan?
Thank you.
Thank you, Raylan. You've been working hard and doing a lot of research.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I'll also compliment you, but you know I have a couple thoughts.
Yes.
My first thought goes to the dollar amounts. And I looked at the applications you'd sent out, and I think for the most part, this is in line with what some of the other cities are doing.
It is.
My question is, I wonder how long it's been since they've updated their application, because in today's dollars, I don't know how many windows $6,000 can buy.
Well, I also looked at the number of windows that the majority of our buildings have. And so I don't think that we're going to have a lot of window replacement. I think if we could really push them to replace like near the front door or, so a little bit of hindsight of the other issue that I'm working with also is there's a big push right now nationwide really about downtown living. And so I've been working with Mark Thacker so that he can get me a list of all those buildings that have more than one story. And while Paddock, your funding, of course, is sales tax, other entities benefit because of property values and property taxes. And so I really think if you go into something like windows or major repairs, that what I'm proposing is that we look at a different incentive with possibly TERS for those property owners who want to do an extensive exterior facade and hopefully put some incentive funds in there for them to build out those second, third, fourth floors. And with that, what I'm proposing is that we would help them get it residential ready so that with zero tax abatements, you're increasing your property value, but you also have additional income coming in. So that's kind of the angle that I took with this, is that y'all could really focus in on helping every building that's out there. But if you're doing a major renovation, that's really more of a property tax base. And so I'm looking at having other incentives that could help participate with businesses so that y'all are able to focus on bringing in new business to Terrell, while our existing property owners really need to work on fixing up their buildings, but there may be other incentive avenues that we could look at rather than just Paddock.
Thank you.
But you can use this grant
Yes.
along with the other incentives that.
Yes. And so if it came to you, this would be if someone is just doing minor repairs. Anything over this needs to be looked at as a major renovation to a building, and then we need to look at possible other incentives, because then you're really tapping into what the true assessment of that building is going to be. And that changes kind of the structure of where the funding could possibly come from.
Is this in line with what we've already given people in grants for work that's already been done, or is it less or more?
It is about the same. I pulled some applications. The hard thing with the initial facade grant and how it worked is there wasn't a clear line of what was supported. It was, we were trying to give people what it was that they thought that their building needed. And so if you were to add all of this together in multiple ways, you're going to end up with about the same amount of funding. But it does require, you just to be very specific about what you're doing with your building. Because what I run into is we have a lot of people who have great ideas when they come forward, but they haven't gone through the process of having the rendering done. And what does that actually look like? What is the construction for what you want to happen? And so I think this will actually help your business owners more than anything, making sure that they've done all of their research and they know exactly what it's going to take, instead of just having an idea or a theory of what the building should look like.
I just don't want somebody to say, well, you gave so-and-so over here $6,000 for their door, and now you're only wanting to give me.
Yeah.
And Raylan, what, can you tell us again what cities you used as, I guess, a baseline to
This would be,
how the best?
we did Fate, Garland, Saxe, Salina, and there was a Red Oak was the other one. So I tried to go with cities who are up and coming, not ones that have been so established. Also, City of Kaufman. Stuart McGregor was great in helping me get some of this together, especially the back-end documents of the performance agreements. So he's been very successful downtown, and he was running into the same thing. It was just kind of a modge podge of people making requests because there was grant funding out there, and so it seems very specific, but he said it really helped the business owners focus in on a few things so that they could get some stuff done.
So it sounds like we have a couple of nearby cities in the North Texas area that are doing some of the work that we're doing as well when we're looking at what the grants, what qualifies for grants in terms of like doors, awnings, et cetera. The prices seem to be in line with the other cities is what I'm hearing, plus some of the research that you've done with the.
And I also think that this is something that, I mean, we'll see those bids, and if we're looking at these bids in 12 months from now, we think that this needs to be raised because of the bids that are coming in. I think this is a great start, but obviously, if you start seeing that the bids are coming in a lot higher, we can always amend the application, so.
And we do have that language here on page 4.
Well, we would have to come back as a board, but, I mean, obviously, it would be your discretion to change the amount when they applied for it. I would not recommend doing that because that kind of gets you into a rabbit hole also. But after a couple of these applications, if we see that the bids are coming in, I will initiate bringing the application back.
Ronnie just pointed out something. I noticed this too. On the other ones, there's language in there that basically says, upon good cause shown, the paddock board can basically do what they want.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's language we want to add to this one too, or if you're saying we want to leave this one.
This one was just very simple.
This one does apply to a lot of properties. and
It does.
Not
And
all
it's-
of them are.
And it's existing businesses. Your other two grants is to incentivize a new business to downtown. So these are people who already have a business here, they're already established, they're not moving, there's no changes. They're just wanting to kind of spruce up their building, yeah.
One final thought on that. I think, what do you think about, for like windows, paint, that this should be per floor, per side?
Okay,
How the
we
other
can do that. Uh-huh.
Any other comments on the site enhancement matching grant?
So let me make sure that I have this correct. We're going to add language, making sure that we are not guaranteeing the maximum, but only up to. And your windows, doors, and paint, what about your brick per side? I think the rest of it would be good. Okay, per floor or side. Okay.
You need action approving this?
Yes, please.
All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the site enhancement matching grant application with proposed changes as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. At this time, we'll discuss and consider the Paddock Downtown Revitalization Matching Grant Program. And for that, I'll call on Raylan.
So this is the 25, up to $25,000 matching grant for a lot of items. So these are your qualifying improvements like your exterior facades, utility upgrades, any of the environmental remediation. Obviously, what this does require is that a property owner is investing $50,000 in their property. But the key to this matching grant program is that this is really focused on bringing new businesses to Terrell. I stole the qualified applicants list from the City of Kaufman. They were the ones that really pinpointed the types of businesses that they wanted to see downtown. So we had new, unique dining concepts, specialty retail, breweries, wineries, or distilleries, entertainment, commercial uses for second floor spaces. such as office space, making sure that, you're not giving money for residential, but if there is someone moving into a second floor. The qualified area for this would only be your central business district. So this is focused in on that downtown core. The award, you are eligible to receive up to $25,000 in matching funds upon the CO. So this is guaranteeing that the work happened and you are really asking for the building to be opened. Businesses open until at least 8 p.m. 2 nights per week can receive the maximum $25,000, while businesses that do not have evening hours are only eligible to receive up to $20,000. The minimum matching grant available for this program is $12,500. So this is really focusing in on those people who are spending at least $50,000 on the renovation of their building. I did put something in there that you do reserve the right to provide a higher negotiated grant. If someone comes in and they're spending an exorbitant amount, you can obviously work to do that. The process for this one is laid out the same. I didn't mention this last time, but I did put in here that these cannot be combined with other grants. So you either qualify for this one or you qualify for something else. So we can't, they wouldn't be able to double dip. They would have 12 months to complete construction, and the applicant must remain in business on the property for at least 18 months. Failure to remain in business on the property for the minimum time period could result in forfeiture of reimbursed funds. And that's just language hoping that it kind of incentivizes them to really make sure that they're in it for at least the 18-month period. The application process for this is a little bit different. It's a little harder. We're asking for very specific information describing the new concept and how is this new to Terrell. We really want to know a lot about the owner's background and their experience in the business that they're trying to open. Some of the job wage information, and then we're also asking for those annual taxable sales, that their estimates. And so you will have this information whenever they're applying to you, so you'll realize the impact that it would have on downtown. Again, those attachments would be the building plans and renderings, making sure that they've already gone through that process. Any banking information, this one also requires a business plan and the business owner's resume. So a little bit more detail, but it's getting more to the business and how the business is going to be run before you put money into a program.
Have some discussion on the amount. I would like to at least have a discussion about whether we want to incentivize the people staying open past 8 p.m. even more heavily. So I would like board feedback on that. Do we think, I think there should maybe be a bigger gap distinction between the businesses that are going to keep traditional business hours versus the business hours that are going to pull in people after that work hour, that happy hour, dinner hour crowd. So I don't know if that means reducing the amount that the prior to 8 p.m. is eligible for, or increasing the amount the after 8 p.m. is open for. But this is Central Business District, so this is basically Moore Avenue, the heart of downtown. I think I would like to see a little more incentive for those later open businesses.
And as we dive into that question, because I also had a question for Raylan around the, in terms of the 8 p.m. 2 nights a week, I'm wondering whether it was Stewart or another city that has a similar concept for businesses staying past or up to 8 p.m.
Actually, the city of Kaufman was the first one to do it.
And how, I could, colored lines. Nice to see you here today, and I know you're moving in downtown, but let's say, colored lines decides.
Imaginary.
Imaginary lines. Feel free to correct me as others.
You're good.
Yeah.
She was going to be too sweet. She was just going to sit and nod.
Yeah. But imaginary lines, or maybe it's a coffee shop starts out with I'm here until 8 p.m. for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 days a week. But then halfway through the year, they end up closing at 5:30 p.m. How do we assure that they're going to stay? Is it maybe a like a tapered grant reimbursement where half of it is given, a fourth, whatever it may be, at certain time frames to assure that they are staying? That was some of the feedback as we continue the conversation here.
Well, the way you could do that is possibly after the 18-month period, which is what we've said on all of them, is when you would get that bonus. So maybe you only get the original matching amount, and then once you've been open or you've maintained those hours, because that is the difference between the amounts. Once you've maintained those hours based on your grant application, that's when you're paid that additional bonus for doing that portion. That's one way you could do it, but I'm open to suggestions.
Since you said Kaufman was the place that did this first, how many businesses do they have that are participating in that?
They now have the after hours, which is the little diner that opened up next door. They also have that new tacos and margaritas.
It's not open yet,
Right,
but
but-
they are working hard on it. The building looks fantastic.
Yeah, so they've got at least 2 restaurants now staying open.
And I think Latham stays open until, I
They-
think they close at 8.
Right, so they've extended their hours. So,
More inclined to give more instead of knock down the lower threshold. Matt Malone was very open in telling us it costs $300,000 to transform that building. $25,000 is going to be a drop in the bucket. So I'd like to see us be more generous.
okay,
We also, we being the city of Terrell, have a reputation for lots of red tape. I would like to make it easier, not harder, initially. And then when we get overwhelmed with applications, then we can ratchet it down. if
Right,
we need
yeah.
to, But we're not there yet. So I'm a proponent of, let's just kind of clear the runway. Let's get some action downtown. It won't be long before there's not that many buildings left to transform as
exactly.
well.
Yeah,
So let's do it right first, is my kind of mentality on this. We're gonna get one shot to transform, 102 Westmore, but let's give it all we got, and hopefully that business will be successful for the long term.
what amount are y'all?
Are you thinking like up to 50 for us, 100 for the whole project?
I mean, they can spend what they want to.
Right, but
yes,
us up to 50,000.
50?
for that type of business.
Do you want to incentivize after 8 or until 8?
Oh, until 8's fine.
Okay.
I go to bed about that.
Yeah,
Well,
So-
and we don't want 2 a.m. businesses being
Right.
the only people getting this money.
right,
So-
so that's what I was saying. So do you want a separate amount for those businesses that will be open until 8?
Yeah, what I'm proposing is that we can give 25 for the, any other business. Those up till 8.
Get the 50, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but your
Yeah.
people that are open from 9 to 5, that's your core businesses.
So, like, when you
It's
look
almost
at,
like you're punishing them.
but when
for
you
not
look at
staying
this list, so like dining concepts, we want to open till 8. Specialty retail, we'd like some shop, I'd love to go eat dinner and then go shop. Breweries, wineries, same thing.
What we're running into now is our retail businesses are using office hours. So they're missing the window of when we could actually go down and participate downtown. And so this is trying to incentivize, even if it's just a few hours after everyone closes at 5, that we were able to have a little bit of activity.
And I would be okay, Raylan, if we, instead of making it 2 nights a week, if we make it, however many, 5 nights a month. Because I know some downtowns do the first Friday of the month, every business stays open till 8, and everybody comes and eats at the restaurants. What we're really trying to build is just right now at 5 p.m., our downtown rolls up the sidewalks and there's no lights, there's no
Right.
people, there's no nothing. And we want to continue traffic beyond those hours, so.
What
So-
about, because I still strongly feel that we need to have a staircased approach to the additional funding. So if we're doing $25,000, but then another 25,000, or whatever that amount may be, for businesses that stay up to 8 o'clock, whether it's, maybe it's your coffee shop from 8 to, coffee shop that stays open, this is one bucket. Coffee shop that's open from 8 to 5 now is open until 8 o'clock. But then you have maybe a restaurant that decides that, and they're in the second bucket, where they stay open late Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, maybe Friday, Saturday, right? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, as an example, 2 to 3 days, on like a weekend basis. And you could even have like a third bucket, right, where it's a business that stays open on Fridays only for those special, right, kind of Fridays, if you could get all the businesses to stay open right on a
Right.
Friday, but a group, but still having maybe different options to help accommodate. I hear what Patty's saying, like, you know, maybe your local business that does want to stay open, that's already here until 8 o'clock, just financially can't do that right now. So it feels like you are punishing, we may not be giving them as much of an incentive to work with, but you could still have those different buckets and assure that, once again, you know, they are staying open. Because once you get a business in there, the hope is that business can stay. But what happens if that business does stay and they're not willing to stay open until 8 p.m., whether it's on a weekday or weekend? And then so you're losing one building, you know, potentially on that first floor, that now you can no longer work with to stay open until 8 p.m. That's my
Yeah.
heartburn.
And I struggle both ways, because we always talk about the chicken and the egg, because what I'm trying to do is incentivize new businesses into Terrell. We have a very good group of established businesses in Terrell, meet with them on a regular basis. They're looking to the city to bring people into their stores. And so, you know, they're kind of placing the responsibility a little bit on the city, and what are we doing to revitalize downtown? What are we doing to bring more people into downtown? And so I think initially, my response could be, this is what we're doing. We're trying to bring new businesses to be your next door neighbor, and they're going to be open later to give you an opportunity to have more customers, and hopefully you would be able to maintain these hours as well. I struggle, and I go back and forth a lot with incentivizing existing business owners unless they're trying something new. So that's just where I struggle, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but we spend a lot of time with our small business owners, and I struggle with how the city can better help them. So obviously, any suggestion that you have, but I think our biggest hang-up right now is just not having the newer businesses there. We've had businesses who thankfully have been in business here for 30-plus years, so they already have an established customer base. And so what they're missing out on is new customers coming into their store. And so I think incentives like this will bring a new population to those existing businesses, is my hope.
So I think it's important for us to remember, as it goes towards the grant program, to Tori's very good point about the red tape. I'm going to say perception, but I think it's a fair perception. I think we need to leave the language on our application as generalized as possible, but I think that's why we need to include a provision that makes it clear, we are not saying an application that meets all our requirements gets you to this amount of money, so that we can, as a board, have conversations when they come to present us and say, well, you know, this is really not what we had envisioned, so we're gonna, on this project, give you a little less than we gave this other person. So I think the kind of the bucket you're talking about can be something we enforce as a board as things are presented, but I don't want our application to be so structured that it doesn't allow for those exceptions and
If I check the
creativity.
boxes, I should expect to check, right?
Let's, quick thought shift. Instead of saying we want to attract new businesses, let's say we want to attract more businesses, because they are an existing business, and that music shop you got downtown, we just need more.
Well, and so it talks about expansion or relocation. So it's new to downtown. It is really what the language, and I'll work on the language too, but it's anything that's new to this central business district. In talking about the city, they got their CO, which is great, but also we worked with Matt Malone and Justin Fivecoat the other day. You know, they brought to us an idea for an elevator that's been approved in other historic buildings, and so through our international existing building code, we were able to get that elevator installed in the Artesian Lodge. And so Matt and Justin both promised me that they would get that rumor out there too. But I do think that people are starting to see now that they have a place to come to, and like, if you will throw an idea out, we will sit back there and we'll do all the research and see what we can do. So I think we've got a good team in municipal development right now. The building official is helping out a lot, and I'm bouncing ideas off him all the time. And so we're working together with anything that's trying to come on to Moore Avenue or, you know, those specific areas. So hopefully the red tape, hopefully the city department side of that gets a lot easier too.
Any other thoughts?
So we want to change this to 4 nights per month.
Maybe options. It doesn't have
Okay.
to be.
To be an option.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just
Okay.
note some down.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And somebody may come up
Like
with
that.
something more creative.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie's point.
Yeah, at least an amount.
We need to
Okay.
have like a minimum nights.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I just need a number that we definitely. Okay.
So the minimum's 4 nights a month.
Or minimum 4 nights per month. Okay.
Would you say a minimum of 2 nights a week? Or,
Minimum of 4 nights a month?
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's one
Yeah.
night a week,
Mhm.
minimum of 1 night a week.
How do you feel about that?
Excluding Sunday.
But they have the option to stay open more than that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
We hope they will. You know, for a restaurant, no. I mean, surely you want to, but then what if it's a sandwich shop?
That's the floor of who can apply though, and we can have those conversations with them of, hey, look, if you're asking for the maximum amount, we need you to have 2 or 3 nights a week you're open, not just one.
Right.
That's the floor for even applying, so
Mhm.
I'm comfortable with that.
That's where I still have that hesitation where if someone agrees to for, for a month, let's say, but then, you know, they choose something like a Wednesday or, you know, they just not consistent, then are we giving more funds to that? Kind of, where's that, you know, that tiered reimbursement for them? Okay, now you've proved to us, not that it needs to be so much red tape, because I hear that concern, right? So I appreciate the conversation and the feedback, but where's that limit in kind of that feedback that we're providing, Raylan? I'm sure you'll come back with
I think 2
some
nights.
additional thoughts.
Now that I'm really thinking about it, Friday, Saturday night,
Mhm.
we want them to stay
Right.
I'm more inclined to at least 2 nights a week
2 nights
myself.
for the 50.
Yeah, okay. So the grant is up to 25,000 across the board, or up to 50,000 if you're open till at least 2 nights a week. Okay, got it.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. All right, next we're going to discuss and consider the Paddock Downtown Lease Assistance Program.
So this has been a hot topic for a very long time. We've all discussed it. We've talked about how do we help incentivize our property owners to go ahead and do the work to their building and feel comfortable in that they're going to have to charge fair market value. So this grant specifically, again, is going to new to downtown businesses, whether that's relocation or expansion, something new. Categories are the same, and of course, this is only within the CBD. The recommendation for this is applicants or lessees can receive up to 24 months of reimbursement. Failure to remain in business on the property for the minimum time period could result in a forfeiture of reimbursed funds. None of this money is paid up front. It would be reimbursed on a quarterly basis based on an invoice is paid from actually the property owner. The tenant would receive the money, but we would need documentation from the property owner that the actual lease was paid for that quarter. So it'll be a little bit of work on them to get reimbursed. I started this discussion at eligible to receive up to a maximum of 20% of total monthly lease back paid to the tenant. And of course, this would only be for those leases that are set at the current market rate. So we're not looking for those new businesses that are coming in and they're still being charged the same $1,200 that the previous tenant was charged. So this is for those individuals who are, and we hope that eventually our tenants are being hit with, higher lease rates, because that means that work's been done to the property. So I tried to get all the information that we've been talking about for months into an application. Again, you will see their annual taxable sales, some of the real property information, all of the financials and everything. I established the same as the larger matching grant that you just saw, but this was a consideration for up to 20% at fair market rate for 2 years.
So this comes into play when a landlord has invested in their building, and as a result, their rents have increased, and it only applies for a business that has moved downtown. So, okay.
I think it's,
So if we're trying to also incentivize the landlords that have not done anything to their building in years,
Yes.
and then they do, would this apply?
Yes, and so what this would do is we're able to communicate to the property owners, because they're scared to do anything to their building, because then that means that their tenant's gonna move out, they can't afford to stay there. So if you have, and you bring up a good point, we could add a paragraph that if a building increases its taxable value more than a set amount, that existing tenant would be eligible for these. And so that way, you don't necessarily lose the existing tenant if the property owner decides to completely renovate. But I think that we would have to put a minimum threshold of their increase in assessed value.
Or what if, it may not be this simple, but is it as simple as if your landlord receives one of these other grants we've talked about, you're gonna get,
There you go.
then you're eligible to apply.
Right. So it would be two-pronged. No, that makes sense.
I think moving forward, like from today on, I think that's exactly right. But I don't want, I just think about Elliott Jones's building and how long it has been open and beautiful, but rent's a problem there.
Right.
So I don't want us to exclude that building from this program just because he did the work before.
So it would be anyone,
program on books.
this, as long as you do not have an existing tenant, any available space right now. as long as you are leasing it at fair market value. And so one thing to incentivize the matching grant program would be, go ahead, do the work, we will reimburse you, and then also your tenant is eligible for these reimbursements on the lease. So, can do that. I think this is a great idea. I know that y'all have talked about it a lot, and, you know, just kind of what that would look like. We've had people ask about it, you know, in fact, we're moving forward right now, but I really think that this takes kind of some of the hesitation of newer businesses coming in, and hopefully this will eliminate some of the stress of the property owners also, because that's their biggest fear, is that the building would sit empty.
Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Yeah, no, we would pull a report. What they would have to do is provide the lease agreement, and then also a part of that commercial lease shows the fair market value appraisal on that. And so that would be part of the commercial lease that they would provide.
Matt, what are you seeing lease rates do in Terrell? Are they stagnant or are they increasing?
It's variable. Just depends on the property and the condition and the terms of the lease. If someone's doing a triple net lease or a gross lease, there's several factors that go in there. They're really case by case. I think something like that may need to have an appraiser on hand for.
Yeah. And we have one, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I would provide that information.
There's not enough of it, and the properties are so unique in downtown that there's not just a set of comps where you know exactly what something's gonna be because this one's sold.
Right.
Or at least one. So leases are very unique to that situation.
What I would do is I will make part of the application that with the copy of the lease agreement would be the owner's rental appraisal, and then it would be a very small amount for me to have that verified through Rutherford, which is who verifies all of our other appraisals. So we would just double
So if
check.
you have a land, owner come in and say, okay, well, my tenant's gonna get 20%, so I think I'm gonna raise my rent
Mm-hmm.
15 or
Right.
whatever. Do you have controls on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll make sure that those amounts are verified.
And is there a maximum on that 20%?
No.
In some of these commercial leases, they allow for tenant to pay for the property insurance and the property taxes and all the maintenance and all the upkeep, so I see a landlord rolling all that in, so it's incentivized, so all that's gonna factor in.
Right, but no, we would definitely have the rental rate verified by an appraiser.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Paddock Downtown Lease Assistance Program. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next, we'll discuss the City of Terrell Small Business Guide.
So, not going to go into this at all, but I did want to share with y'all, I mentioned a little bit ago, the meeting with the small business owners downtown. We met with them last month. They made a few requests of the city. One of that was just simply, how can you simplify getting building permits? What is it that we need to do to start businesses? I talked to y'all last month. One of my biggest concerns sometimes in speaking with people is that they don't have the plan, the business plan itself behind just coming in and wanting to open a business. So I put a high priority on some of the things you really need in the background. I made sure that we talked about the TBCC Small Business Program, listed some telephone numbers, tried to simplify what requires a building permit, what doesn't. Please make sure you have a CO, and then also adding those Paddock grants in the back. Hopefully we'll have some other incentives that can be added. So I just kind of wanted to give y'all a heads up that this is in the works, and it's because thankfully our small businesses are asking for this, and so this will be a living document. But I wanted to give you a copy of it. It was a very rough draft, and I haven't gotten any comments back, but there's a lot of people out there reading it, so I'm sure there's typos, I'm sure there's lots of things, but this was, I just kind of wanted to let y'all know what what else we've been working on. And this was an attempt from a request from our current downtown businesses.
Of just a tiny, tiny hint of heartburn about one thing, and I'll tell you, it's on page 32, and this has Mark Thacker all over it, and I trust Mark Thacker in all things at this point. But I'm looking at some of those colors, and I understand that they are historic appropriate, but I think we need some, maybe these are accent colors and only one accent color per building, because I see some businesses that would go, great, we'll do lime green with bright orange trim. And we don't want that.
No,
so-
I struggle with our CBD and historic and our DD zoning regulations anyway. And so this is exactly what is in our zoning ordinance as it stands. But I am putting together recommendations. I've had Matt and Justin, because, you know, the facade of their building doesn't qualify according to our zoning ordinance either, but it looks great downtown. And so I've pulled, just like I did applications, I've pulled a lot of different zoning ordinances. And so what I'm hoping to do this year is to give more of a blanket CBD downtown district that would start to mention some of those other aesthetics that people are starting to use, because according to our zoning ordinance, you can't do metal awnings either. Well, those are so popular right now. And so there's a lot of things. I think we just need to be more generalized in our zoning ordinance and have it go through. A lot of the cities now, what they've done is we have our DRC, which is our Development Review Committee. They have a Historical Review Committee. And so their zoning ordinances are more general, but you have to go through that HRC so that all of those ideas are kind of vetted out. And so that's probably going to be my recommendation to the zoning ordinance, because there's so many options right now. You know, I think 10 years ago, this is what downtowns had, but there's so many other options now. So that's what I'm looking at doing. And I'll keep y'all updated on the zoning ordinance also.
Thank you, Raylan. No need to approve that, correct?
Right, no, that was just to let you know.
Next, we will discuss and consider the Paddock Grant Program for 115 West Moore Avenue.
So I wanted to bring Chris and Mary back. They wanted an opportunity to tell you a little bit about their business. I brought them to you last month. You know, they had the list of items within their business. I wanted to allow them the opportunity to talk to you what they're going to be doing downtown. Keeping in mind the applications that we just went through, and that's why I kind of put them towards the bottom of the agenda, because now you may be able to help them in other ways. And so I initially had them share some information on their lease. You've already seen the amount of money that, you know, that they have for just the internal things that they're doing within their building. But I wanted to give them the opportunity to come and request Paddock funds. I did, and it does say draft across the top, in case y'all were completely not up for this. I had them delete your first application for the downtown lease assistance, and so this was the packet that they put together so that we can kind of get used to seeing this information. But just allow them the opportunity to come and talk to you about their business. Chris, Mary?
Welcome. Good morning. Glad you're here at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning. That's a good sign.
Yes. I can't tell you how excited we are about this program. And we felt like there's a lot going on, or potentially going on, in Terrell for a lot of years. We've been here in business. Next year will be our 30th year. And it's always been kind of disappointing that our business is always outside of Terrell, you know, and so we're really excited about bringing some of it in. So we found that the Lyric could provide a destination, and that's what we needed to have something happen. And having that built in is something that is pretty tough to come up with, just as something that's already built and ready to go. So excited about that. and that it can house our existing business, and we can be using that for our cash flow and getting everything running as we move into a coffee shop and a wine bar in the area. We've recognized for a long time that the hours that people are keeping just aren't matching what people's lifestyles are. And so we know that this is going to be a heavy lift because we're getting in on this at the very beginning and there's a lot to do. But we feel like there's also enough opportunity to offset that. So, and as Raylan said, the first application was a draft. So we weren't quite certain of what was going to be needed, so we did it very quickly. And so some of our business plan and everything is not detailed in that draft, and we can do that. But we're certainly open to any questions or ideas that anybody has.
What most impressed me about your business plan is that there are so many cash flow sources.
Right.
Explain how you'll manage that, on a 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. kind of day.
Right. One of the things that's really interesting about the business that we've been in for so many years is that we are involved with other people's businesses. So we have a lot of experience watching other people, what they're doing, and that experience has been extremely valuable, and we work very closely with them. And all of these things are productions that require the assembly of a team, and that's the only way it happens. And not everybody goes into it being the person who is the expert that's going to make it happen. And so we're going on this same approach with some of these things that are ones that we have not had a previous business. We've never owned a coffee shop, but we know how to put together a team that can do that. And we know what a coffee shop needs to be commercially and financially and how to make things happen. And the one thing that we are comfortable with is that we do have so many facets of things happening at the same time that we can kind of watch and see if there's parts that are needing help or parts that are really showing a lot of promise, that we can put more efforts in that regard. And the fact that we can use our established business coming in, putting it on the second floor, being a second floor business, so we're not interfering with the coffee shop and things of that nature, and have some existing business to deal with. Now, I know that a lot of the structuring that is planned here is for sales tax revenue. And our business does not generate a lot of sales tax, but everything else we're adding on is a sales tax revenue type of business. So, yeah.
Other questions for Chris?
Chris, do y'all have and it may be in here and I'm just not seeing it, do y'all have a proposed opening date?
I don't have that in there. We were proposing opening September 1st for Imaginary Lines, and just everything kind of got slowed down. We are using the mural walk on the 16th as sort of a soft opening. That's going to be our first event, but we're still not going to be really up and running, but we're putting all of our efforts to make the event successful and exciting. So October 1st is more of a date that we're looking at. And I'm hopeful that we can have the coffee shop going at the same time. We are staging the openings where it's going to be Imaginary Lines getting up and running at one thing, then we'll go to the coffee shop, and then we'll go to the wine bar. And so I'm hoping that we can be ready October 1st with the coffee part of it. Yeah.
When he's talking about imaginary lines, that includes basically the production, which is the event area. And so that would include, like, if we were to rent out that part of the building as a production area.
Or an event space, as event space. Yeah.
So that's that other aspect.
Yeah, I wasn't clear about that, thanks. The Imaginary Lines is going to manage the event part of it. And because we automatically have built-in production capability. And so our first step is going to be production rental of the event space and then expanding that into other event spaces. And we've talked to Aurora Productions in Dallas, and they're looking at the space. They're already doing things at Corsicana and at, was it Corsicana, was it 102 West, or what's that thing called? Anyway, sorry. But they're looking at us being a destination for some of their promotions as well. They're excited about it. And like I say, they're already working 100 miles away in Corsicana, and they're feeling like this is a real opportunity. One of the things we feel like is an opportunity is that one of the things that's happening in Dallas is that the photo district in the downtown is where most of the production is taking place. But there are a lot of studios opening in Richardson and Plano, and people are not having a problem going to those areas. And so we're no further away than those people are. The other thing is because a lot of our business has been outside of Terrell, businesses that are coming in from whether it be New York, Atlanta, Chicago, and Dallas, or excuse me, Los Angeles, and coming here, they don't care where they go. They're coming in on a plane and the crew's going to a location, they don't care. And so we have those contacts that we're making a lot of pressure to get them to use this as a location.
Best guess on when the wine bar will open.
I'm hoping November 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coffee and wine.
Yes, yes. We have so many ideas.
Yeah, and eventually some light food options, right?
Yeah, yes, yes. And we're trying to do that at the same time that each one of those segments opens, but it may not be fully developed at that point.
I do think they're a great candidate for the lease assistance program because of the work that's been done on that building, which certainly, increased the rent from whatever Terrell Office Products was paying. It is, I appreciate that it's not a brand-new business, although it has some new ideas behind it or new concepts, but it's an existing business in Terrell that is choosing to move downtown. Y'all are the new poster child. So.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And I have to say, one of our serious considerations was that for the square footage prices, or the price per square foot of this building, we could have gone downtown to Dallas in the Arts District.
Oh.
And that's just not something, also, we would be just another face there, whereas here we can be something unique, we're home, and just all that's really exciting. So.
I need some clarity again. Remind me, what was the opening date? And then I think I heard staying open till 9 o'clock, but what would be the hours for the coffee and wine that would be served?
Our plan right now is to be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. We haven't determined hours for Sunday. I'm sure they're going to be shorter than that. But we feel like with the traffic that we have out here, that an opportunity is really being missed by not handling these people that are coming through here at 7 a.m. I mean, you're awake at 4 a.m. in the morning and you're hearing crazy amounts of traffic, so I'm not suggesting that we're doing that. But there is a lot going on. And so we have the challenge of how to get these people off of Moore Avenue, and get them to stop. But we're looking at a lot of things as far as POS systems that will allow people to do their pre-ordering on their phone and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be ready to go and in that regard. So back to I think your original question, soft opening with the mural walk on the 16th and a hard opening on October the 1st. We still probably won't announce that as a grand opening kind of thing. So it may be somewhere between a hard opening and the hours will be there, all that, but I just don't know that we're going to do a heavy advertising right at October 1st. I think we need a little bit to get our feet under us.
I need to interrupt there.
Yeah.
I think that's probably pushing back.
Yeah.
I think that's probably, it's more realistic, I would think.
Well, the most important part of that is that the event space and all that can happen.
Yes.
Production and event space will be happening immediately.
The other stuff is, at this point, is because of our scheduling and everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
November's not far off either.
I know.
To recap, what I heard was the soft opening on the weekend of the mural walk. The hard opening would be October the 1st, and that would include the sale of both coffee and wine from 7 a.m.
No. Yeah, November 1st will be wine.
Be coffee.
The first opening is
Yeah, now probably coffee. Yeah, that's probably true.
I'd say what she's saying, push it back, push everything.
Pushing back 30 days? Okay, yeah, 'cause that's more of our original.
Mural walk, October the 1st is event. November 1st is coffee and wine, and
Probably just coffee.
just coffee, and that would be served starting at
You come over with
7
December
a.m.
1st
to
for
9
wine?
p.m.
We'll bring you all some wine.
Right.
There's always one.
The free wine starts on October 1st.
Yes. You know what? Sarah makes a great point. You know, with the Christmas parade coming downtown the first Saturday in December, the tour of homes,
Yes.
all the people that come in for that, your timing would be perfect to be open by December 1st with everything.
With everything, yeah. No, that'd be really great.
So this is a draft, but it also, Raylan says, for us to consider. So what were your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I gave him the application itself because it was a draft, the draft application. But the reason I put discuss and consider is because I think you've got a lot of variables to consider. And so if there was an increase that because the application itself is up to 20%. We did add in there to make sure that I had, fair market appraisal verified by the appraiser, so we would go through that step. And so based on opening dates, I mean, you have a lot of things to consider, and you always will whenever you have these applications. I did have him go ahead and fill it out. Thanks for being the guinea pig of how all of this is going to work. But it was probably good to have you here right now while we're getting all this ironed out. But you are able to consider an incentive for him because you have approved the application process. So,
Raylan, can I just make one more? So last month before we had all of this in place, we had the big proposal and we had the conversation of a lot of it was equipment and we couldn't do that. So is that completely withdrawn and now
Yes.
we're only considering the 20%
yes.
abatement?
Yeah, this would be the one and only application for this address.
Any thoughts or questions for Chris and Mary?
I guess, I'm thinking about the downtown lease assistance program and what the goal is in terms of opening a new unique dining concept, entertainment. So, I mean, I hear there's a mix, right? And I'm thinking about, who we're looking to attract in downtown. So if I want to grab, coffee, I can go down to Imaginary Lines, I can go to Christy Dooley, I can go to, Starbucks. It just depends on where my preference is and what may be my closest proximity, right? If I'm looking to grab wine, I'm hearing that may happen a little bit later. If I'm looking to go to an event, if I have an event coming up that I need to attend, it may be at Imaginary Lines. So I'm thinking in terms of what is the goal of the downtown lease assistance program and who we're looking to attract and what that may mean in terms of when a lease assistance program may start based on the different variables and launch date and what exactly will be launched with, whether it's the mural walk, the hard opening, or the November 1st date with the coffee. And so those are all variables that I'm thinking about right now. So I don't know if I feel comfortable right now approving a lease without having more board discussion and really taking a bit more time to think about what the goal of the downtown lease assistance program is.
So Raylan, we said that this was reimbursement only and it was paid on quarterly, right? So when would the first proposed payout for this be?
So that's one of the things that you could take into consideration with your action today. You could have the clock start based on whatever the opening date is of a particular item. The other portion of that is that, we did list the businesses being new retail or, things like that, but you also have to consider that you have a commercial business moving into a second floor, and the hours. So based on their timeline, what you could approve is a certain percentage based on openings of particular portions of that building, and then that's when that particular clock would start. And
They have their CO, they're paying rent today.
yes,
They're in there. It takes time to
right.
get a business. It speaks volumes to me that you're taking a phased approach. That tells me you know what you're doing, which is encouraging. And, you know, November 1st will be here like that. And we, you know, this is our second time to hear the application. He's certainly here if we have questions. We do not have to end the discussion right now. We need to continue to vet this if y'all have
There is,
concerns about the use, or to your point, the timing, of when the different phases will open.
Percentage, and Raylene did a really great job of summarizing what I was saying earlier.
Okay.
one of the things you need to know, and you're not aware of this yet, is that we voiced our concerns with the Piñas about the time it was going to take to get up and running. Our actual rent, we've paid our deposits, we've done everything. Our actually rent doesn't start until November 1st.
Oh, good.
So since we have to be providing you receipts for what's going on, then you're going to be seeing that there isn't a rent being paid right now. I appreciate your concern, and we.
I appreciate your honesty.
So we would be looking at the quarter that would be ending January.
Okay.
So I think that we'll have everything, you know, unless there's some disaster occurs, I think we're going to have everything up and running that's going to be required to meet the criteria.
Great.
And if it would make y'all more comfortable, what I can do as we start, especially with this program, because these will be quarterly payments, I'll just make sure that those come to y'all on the Paddock Board meeting that month. Even though you've approved the application, I'll just give you an update on the payments, because y'all will obviously be aware of the businesses. So I'll just make sure that that's part of the financial report
Great.
that month.
Well, thank you, that alleviates one of my questions.
Good.
And this is for the whole building, not just part of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Brennan, where does this show up in our budget?
It's new.
It'll be,
It's not
we
in there.
changed the facade reimbursement to just grant incentive. And so if you look at, I tried to kind of calculate what the maximum might be. It's approximately $25,000 a year, which still kind of matches the $25,000 matching grant, et cetera, et cetera. So I tried to keep all of that in line based on what we thought the lease rates would come back at.
Yeah, I'm looking at, on the monthly lease rate of $10,933.
That is a triple net, and so that includes
Okay.
that as well.
And We've only got 3 out of 30 pages of lease here.
Yeah, and I can provide the entire thing,
Okay,
obviously.
that was what I was looking at.
Yeah,
I
sure,
look
no
at
problem.
these frequently.
Yeah.
I'm just looking, you are on accelerated rent rate where it's going for year 1 through 5.
Correct.
Right, okay, so it is on a triple net, that's what I was curious.
Yes, it is. Any other questions?
Hearing none, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I did look while we were visiting on the appraisal district website, you're around 4,100 square feet for the whole building, is that correct?
6,000 if you include the second floor. There's 2 floors.
Okay,
Fourth-
so I was trying to calculate.
Yeah, the 41 is the,
I was trying to do your price per square foot, but that makes a big difference if you have over
Yes.
6,000.
yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I just encourage the board, not only for Imaginary Lines application, but for future applications, kind of what that percentage, and I know we have the flexibility to do more than 20% or less than 20%, but kind of just a different precedent that we could be setting depending on who we want to bring into downtown. Exciting times.
At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the application as presented. Now that we have a program in place, it will require some additional steps from Raylan's department. And as mentioned, the reimbursement clock would begin with the November 1st timeframe and occur quarterly for the next 24 months. Do I have a motion to approve?
I will make that motion. I'm excited.
Sarah likes wine. Yeah, this is happening, Mary. Buckle up. Thank you,
Yeah,
Sarah.
I'm really excited to see something fun and that I
Different.
think will bring people to downtown. So yes, all of that's in my motion.
Thank you, Sarah. Do I have a second?
Enthusiastic second.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, our pleasure. We will discuss and consider the 2024 paddock budget.
Okay, you have seen this a lot. The only change we made from last month is we did remove the line item for the murals, transferring that into the PPP, so you no longer see that amount. Did want to ask you about your intent for that 444002, which is the Anderson Griffith Partnership. There were instructions that y'all would be willing to release the funding for the Anderson building based on building permits, design, et cetera. My question is that off the table as of September 31st or 30th? Or would you want that to extend into next fiscal year? So that, it's the 400,000 for the Anderson Griffith is the one decision, the one thing that I changed on the budget, because there was a hope that that money would be expended and we could wrap that up this fiscal year. However, it is September mid, so just something to consider.
Everybody understand? That, I didn't realize it was Anderson Griffith. I thought that was just for the Anderson building, but it's,
The development agreement itself was named Anderson Griffith because they're intertwined. It's a very, very convoluted thing of you have to do this at this building and then also this at this building, which is why we were trying to simplify it to, if you'll do these things, we'll release the development agreement.
was the $400,000 to be spent on a specific building?
Anderson.
Anderson.
It was just those items that were discussed last month, which would be the windows, environmental, and making sure that there was actual engineered plans for the renovation.
So the question is, if they don't get to it this year, which in all likelihood they won't, is that still on the table for next year? Will we still give them $400,000 to replace the windows, do asbestos abatement, and do engineering plans?
What, Raylan, is it even possible for them to get it done this year? Because what is required for them, for us to expend that? The engineering plans and?
Well, this is a reimbursement, so they would have had to have already ordered the windows, and so it's definitely not happening by the end of this fiscal year. So I wanted to make sure that I was clear on your intent for the next step in that.
So Raylene, if I'm hearing you correctly, the $400,000, was that what we anticipate? Is it a line item in the development agreement? Is that line item $400,000, or were we only projecting that $400,000 would be spent?
The $400,000 was the paddock commitment for that development agreement. And so y'all have carried that $400,000 in your budget for the past 3 years, I think. And so an attempt to get Anderson Building wrapped up so that they could focus on something else, we were requiring them to make sure that the exterior windows were done, that some of the environmental remediation was done, and that they had engineered, stamped plans going through the process for a building permit. And then you could release the budgeted funds and cancel that development agreement so that there would be no other obligation based on that development agreement.
And quick point, $400,000 is $25,000 per floor, per side. It sounds like a huge number, but it is a huge building.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of discussion. I have heartburn about the number, but we have made that agreement. So I think we should honor our word. but I do want to put some kind of, whatever we think the reasonable time caveat is. I don't want to be in September next year talking about, well, we just got this done. I want to see movement.
I think one of the keys to that is knowing that the intention would be that they would be able to go into another development agreement with Paddock. And so that's where you're going to be able to control that timeline, is that you wouldn't have to.
We see plans by the end of the first quarter.
I can say anything, yeah. Whatever makes y'all feel good. I mean, yeah.
Forward progress.
Yeah, no, and I completely understand. They are out of the country right now because I was trying to get an update. You know, we're supposed to get together as soon as they get back. And I'm still pushing him at the very least, like we gotta see plans. We've got to get a building permit pulled for you to do what you want to do. Like you're gonna have to pull a permit to remove the windows. I mean, there are certain steps that we definitely need to start moving on, and I'll be working with them as soon as they get back. So I just expect to get monthly updates.
And Raylan, am I seeing, when I look at the FY '24 budget, am I seeing that the only line item and funding that goes towards parks is $75,000 out of that a little bit over $2 million budget?
Yes, that was the amount that's been carried over each fiscal year. There has been a dedication of $75,000 for park capital improvements and also downtown capital improvements. Those were separate. The other amounts that you see in the '24 budget were those large capital projects that were approved this summer. So that's going to include your parking lot and also your downtown landscape project.
Ronnie makes a great point, because we had talked about, and maybe it's happening this year, but we talked about a lot of stuff, about resurfacing the tennis courts, resurfacing the basketball court. Where's that?
That was presented during budget because your motions were that you wanted to pay a certain percent. And so that's not necessarily in it. You don't see this in your budget because those discussions were based on cash balance. So those projects would come to you on individual approval. They are in the minutes that we know that you would pay up to 25% or this amount for this project, but it's going to be based on participation from the city council.
That's going to come from the cash and bank balance.
Yes.
Not from a basically earmark.
Right. Yeah, all of those were documented in the minutes based on the projects that Glenn's going to bring forward to city council.
Okay, and I'm trying to recall what that total dollar amount may have been for all of the projects.
It was a lot. Lots of contingencies.
What I can do, I can, if you feel better putting that amount in the park capital improvements line item, I can send everyone an email just as soon as we finish here outlining what that amount would be to let you know that I will be increasing this line item by that amount. If that. Yeah, and it was up to 125 for the bridge. I mean, it was a significant amount of money. So if it would make you feel better to have that in the line item, I'd be glad to add that.
I think it would.
Okay.
That way, we can clearly say, no, it's in the budget. We are spending dollars towards our parks. It doesn't look, just heavy-sided for the.
Right. No, that absolutely makes sense. I will, I'll send y'all that number through an email shortly, and I'll let you know that that's what I will still leave the $75,000 for miscellaneous projects this year, but I'll add that number on top, and I'll send you out a new report. Okay.
For now, I'll entertain a motion to approve leaving the $400,000 item for the Anderson Griffith Development payout in the 2024 budget.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
I would make that motion contingent upon us having some verifiable step in the first quarter.
Okay. I'll put together a first quarter timeline.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. All right. Next, we are to discuss and consider the downtown landscape project, streetscape option.
All right. I told Chris Knapp that he was not going to be the one to pick out all of these things because he kept having so many ideas. And I was like, no, let me tell you something.
Let him in, Allison.
Allison, I'm sorry. But, so I'm going to, these types of decisions, I want to make sure come to the board, and I have definitely a majority on what those planners look like, what the street lamps look like, and Chris was like, well, I think, no, we don't think. So, that's what I told him, we don't think through this process. So here is what Kimley Horn has come up with. One of the first decisions to make is what we want the outside of the brick planters to look like. I think originally y'all had just seen like the plain black steel. These were some different materials that they have come up with, and so we're trying to, this is giving them a direction to go. You'll still have a couple of more times to see this, but they kind of wanted to get a feel for what your initial response was or what colors you're looking to do. And then also you have your planters, which we'll be putting downtown, which are self-watering, which is amazing. So we made sure to do that. So I want to kind of get your opinion on this. The planters are the main thing, and then also the design concept for the street lamps. Those are the first big things so we can start counting and figuring out where they're going to fit.
As to the planners, my recommendation would be that we not do the lighter colors, that we do the darker. We have so much red downtown that it's all very brown. And so I think the darker planners would kind of ground our project and kind of richen downtown. But I don't have a strong preference personally between the dark options.
I'm really,
Guessing that the laser cut's probably going to be much more expensive.
It possibly would be, but if you limited it to, only your medians, your larger planners that are there on your medians. I mean, you could request it in certain areas and then maybe go with a more general design on your 32 box planners that are out there. It's just an option. Or I can get pricing either way.
I don't know how I feel about the laser cut with our historic downtown.
Just know with the laser cut, then, because you won't have air in between, so you'll either see the brick behind there, or, because we are just covering the brick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is essentially to cover the existing. Mhm. Yeah, I'm trying to put a facade.
Transform the median.
I will do whatever you want to do.
So those aren't being removed, we're just wrapping.
We're just wrapping them right now, because until there's a final design for Highway 80, who knows what that median may eventually be. So to get, or when, or, it just, all of that is so much out in the open. We thought that the least we could do is put a cover on them to make them more uniform.
And those are going to be self-watering also?
No, the irrigation, we will be fixing the irrigation in the median. There was existing irrigation. It just needs to be repaired. So we will have irrigation within the median again as part of this project.
and that's what I don't recall if I was in that meeting. I'm trying to think back if I was in that meeting or watched it online. I missed. But whether we were actually going to be removing everything or not because of Highway 80.
Right, no, so the design plan itself, and the reason that we went with Kimley Horn was to make sure that any planting that we did would remain. So no matter what option of Highway 80 the city eventually adopts, the trees, all of that remains the same. The reason that we're only covering the brick is if you do end up expanding sidewalks or needing to move the sidewalks, then Eventually, now you would just have a planter that you could still use, because it's essentially going to be a planter that just goes over the top. And so these will be pieces that can be used elsewhere if you do have to get rid of a brick planter. The median itself is very much up in the air, and I would say, yes, it would be completely redesigned with Highway 80. Yes. Yeah, no, you're adding planters there, but we're gonna cover the existing,
Okay.
or we can,
That's what I'm thinking of.
yeah. Because they had some designs where there were smaller planters in between to add to just those 3 big brick squares.
I think the demo of those big brick squares is a big deal.
No, it's not.
So we don't have to, like, I'm trying to picture downtown, but you would know. It's like, there's just one every once in a while, but it takes up, it's like right in the center, both, I mean, horizontally and vertically.
Yeah.
It's in the center of the median. So to put smaller one, like, I don't know, I feel like you knock that sucker down, have a blank slate.
Okay.
And then go in with the, whatever we decide.
I can bring back some options for that.
Patty, plant lady? Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Now, does it require any kind of text dot participation if we start demoing something?
No.
As long as we leave the median.
Right, no, we'll have to, yeah, no, all we'll have to have is a text dot permit, because we maintain the maintenance of that median. That was part of the agreement with the landscape. Once they landscape, they hand that over to the city, so we would get a permit from text dot, but we wouldn't actually be changing
So
the,
the proposal is on the medians to not change anything that's already there, just wrap it.
that's what,
Leave everything as it is, just wrap it.
or. Right.
And the missing planter would be left blank, or isn't there a missing one?
There is. Luckily, it's in the very front. So we could either, add that, or, yeah, so luckily when they did take that out, at least it was, there we go. Yeah,
Oh, they're fugly.
so,
Okay, they are equally spaced.
So we're looking at. Except for missing the front.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the gosh, they're terrible.
It'd be so much prettier if they were more vertical instead of square.
Right.
More
Rectangular.
Yeah, those went out and did elongated.
Yeah.
But I think even wrapping those in black with the contrasting wider planters between them it's still gonna be such a facelift. It's gonna be
And what I will say is next month, I'll be able to bring back to you some images where they put the wrap on there. And so you'll start to see potentially what it's going to look like.
What they're gonna put in between.
Even that, yeah.
I'm having a hard time with self-watering.
This is just for storefront planters. Everything else is going to be irrigated. No, but we wanted to add larger planters, just storefront planters.
Not in the median.
No.
No.
All, no.
Not gonna do it.
No. When I say the self-watering planters, they had several planters all throughout downtown, just in front of buildings, and those would be self-watering. No, everything else that gets planted along the streets is all irrigation, yeah.
Okay, so the picture we're looking at now, these are gonna be wrapped also?
Yes,
Okay, there are a lot.
there are tons of them.
I do like Hillary's comment about a dark color would bring more attention than like if you wrap that in light gray
Yeah.
or even bronze.
The gray.
We don't need any
Yes.
more rust downtown.
Amen.
No, the black would look good with the black lighting.
Oh, the lamp post. True.
Are these irrigated?
Yes, those will be irrigated.
I don't wanna say go for the cheapest option because I don't wanna, without knowing what the cheapest option looks like. But I don't feel like we need to pay more for the laser cut or things like that, you know,
Just if it's
Solid.
textured black and it's covered, right? Okay,
It has plants in it.
yes, plant.
I'd rather spend the money.
And
That's-
irrigation.
Irrigation and the plants is where I'd rather spend my money. I think we need to wrap them, but I don't think we need anything extra.
Yeah. So for your storefront planners, they're giving us some really, really basic and simple colors. I wanted to get your feedback if you wanted to see more pops of colors, or did you want to stay within that gray, black? Because I think with your storefront planners, you could almost pick 5 or 6 really bright colors that you wanted to see throughout downtown, or you just stay really, I don't know, I wanted to throw that idea out.
Depends on what your planning is. You don't want to have an orange pot with, red flowers, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I think the colors should come from the flowers and the storefronts, the flags.
Right. So y'all are okay with some, right, okay.
So Raylan, I'm certainly not an expert in landscaping, and so I'm trying to understand the process and also kind of feel like, unfairly weighing some of this to the board, and then Patty here as the newest expert in parks and plants and all things that. But let's walk me through the process. So today, we're having a conversation about the wrapping for the planters in the center, in the median, and then also feedback on the planters next to the sidewalk. And then I'm hearing there should be a conversation at some point in terms of the actual plants that will go in the planters. And then staff is also working on the irrigation system. Am I missing anything else, or are there certain steps that we'll see?
No, so these are the big items that have to be decided on so that they can start the design work for downtown. And so next month, what you'll see, and actually Kimberly Horn will be here to walk through the look of downtown. They'll have time to put together some more images for you to consider. And then they will have, at that point, we will kind of know where we're at in the timeline as far as when we would be bidding this project. And so we will know the plant options. They're doing research now to figure out, because we want the biggest caliber tree that we can get, and some of those numbers. So this is kind of some of that low-hanging fruit that if we can get this information back to them, even if we just narrow it down to a couple of things, they're still working on the actual plants and, the irrigation plans, et cetera. Because at the end of the day, what we need by mid-October is a bid packet. So next month, what y'all will see is the plant list. This is what we're proposing that it look like downtown. And so there's not a lot of decisions to be made, because we know we want plants. We know, we're working within existing planners that are there. So it's all going to be kind of based on when we can release the bid.
Are they planning on putting trees in those medians?
No, no trees. The trees will go on the side streets now. Yeah.
When we're looking at the downtown round and the urban collection round, are we talking about the planters themselves, or are we talking about plants we see in those?
The planners themselves. Yeah.
Well, we can certainly provide you any feedback we have now in terms of what plans or irrigation system. The earlier, the better.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I like the planters in number 2. I like the plants in number 3.
Yeah.
In your color scheme, would it be any coordination between the light poles and the planters?
Yes, yeah. So the very next page is the street lamps themselves will be the black, which is what we have now. They're trying to get an idea of the style of street lamps. So that first, I gave you the full packet of the company that they work with. I mean, there's so many lights. But these 5 designs right here, even though you could take these 5 and each one of these, you have 17 options of this style. If y'all could pick a style, then what they're gonna try to do is with the textures in the covers, et cetera, they will bring back a couple of options for you for the exact street light, just based on the landscape covers. So if there's a particular style that you have in mind, then they'll be able to narrow that down for you. Because when you look at the packet that was included, each of these styles have lots of variations. And so we're also looking at the bracketing system for the flags and, you know, all of that. But I need an avenue of style. Down facing?
I mean, that'd be my suggestion, because we're trying to light up the
Mm-hmm.
sidewalk, not the
And we've got the lights around the top of the building.
Yes, we do now.
Taller the better.
facing.
That was gonna be my,
I think our current light fixtures are so small in proportion to our buildings. I think we need grander scale.
You don't even recognize them. They get just overshadowed by everything else, so. The ones that are there now, are they metal or are they like they're metal, aren't they?
Are they metal? Yeah.
But they don't even get recognized, like I said, they're just kind of there.
So tall, down facing.
Something that, they make a statement. They, you know, for the recognized, when people drive by, they actually notice these cool down-facing.
So what they've done is they've come out and measured our street lamps. They're looking at the pads that are available, so their recommendations are gonna be like how tall we could actually go based on the location where lights are now. They're also making sure that, because these lights are older, we will be able to go with a brighter light, which has that really special word I can't think of right now. It's even more special than that. I don't know, but they're doing a test now because essentially, because of the light it will give off, you may end up with a few less street lights, which budget-wise is going to be good. So based on which style you like, they're calculating how they need to be spaced out using our existing pads, because we're not going to do any of that electrical work, but how they could be spaced out throughout downtown, because we will have a brighter light. So we want to make sure that we're cognizant.
Warm bulbs,
Mm-hmm.
not the ones that
Right.
are blue LED.
Oh, yeah. Warm white, yes.
Like the 4th option, is that what you're all leaning? So it faces down, but it's taller,
4 and 5 both.
Okay.
not
Two's
2.
okay, but it looks kind of that. It looks a little more modern. Yeah, it kind of almost has kind of like that, what they call that steampunk look, you know, like a, but no, yeah. The biggest we could go without it being obnoxious.
Okay.
Which might make
So
it
noted.
difficult for the city to put up the banners, if it's really. Okay.
We'll make it work. So those are the 2 main things, so. Mhm. Mm-hmm, yes, that would be one of the options.
Hard, the gray
Right, yeah.
drawing to picture what it would look like on your street.
They overhang the
Mhm.
sidewalk more so, or?
That is a good point. When Kimley Horn looks at it,
Mm-hmm.
which way does the hang,
Well,
the arm go?
It'd go over the parallel parking.
Street, okay. Yeah. Shouldn't. There's not a big truck driving parked there. I bet it overhangs the sidewalk. I don't know.
I don't think it would extend all the way to the parking lot, yeah, to the parking spot, because you still have quite a bit of
Toward
meeting.
the traffic, so, but, I don't know.
That's why there's engineers for that stuff.
You know what, they'll probably tell us which direction the lights go.
If not, we'll ask.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to bringing Kimley Horn's landscape architect here next month. And he'll give you a full update and talk lots of plants and all of that, so. But this is enough to get them started, so they can get farther down the road. To,
Specific action from us. Just-
no, I'm gonna take these notes and then we'll prepare an item for October.
Do we have any executive session today? All right. Any other discussion for today? Thank you all for coming. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Thank you.